Through great compassion, you embrace this degenerate world of strife, then made 500 vast aspirations. Praised like a white lotus, hearing your name brings non-regression. I respectfully prostrate to our compassionate teacher. Your mind manifests Manjushri's wisdom, diligently studying the meaning of Samantabhadra's aspiration prayers. You who uphold the activities of Buddha and his spiritual sons, I pray to the feet of Guru Manjushri. Treasury of fearless, sovereign debate, teaching and composition, perfectly endowed with the virtues of the three trainings, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of boundless benefit and happiness, I pray to the glorious Guru, supreme guide, Devas, Nagas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, as well as humans and non-humans, with all the languages of every sentient being, may the Dharma be taught in all their voices. In order to liberate all sentient beings, everyone please generate supreme bodhicitta. Today we begin once again to teach the words of my perfect teacher. Among the common preliminaries, it discusses the three lower realms. Among the three lower realms, we have already discussed the sufferings of hell beings and hungry ghosts. Starting today, we will discuss the sufferings of animals. First, I want to tell everyone that from this semester onwards, every Dharma friend should recognize the importance of listening to the Buddha's teachings and the importance of learning. I remember in the Buddhist sutras, they speak of the many virtues of listening. How do the sutras put it? Through listening, one knows all dharmas. Through listening, one prevents all evil. Through listening, one abandons meaninglessness. Through listening, one attains nirvana. These speak of the four virtues of listening to the Dharma. Through listening to the Buddha's teachings, one can know what to adopt and what to abandon, and can distinguish Dharma from non-Dharma. One can know all knowledge of both the worldly and transcendent realms. Everyone knows that in today's world, not to mention the Buddha's teachings, even learning a simple worldly truth requires tremendous time. Countries around the world place such emphasis on education. What is the reason? It's because learning and listening are extremely important. If from childhood we knew nothing about worldly knowledge, then in this life, whatever we tried to do, we would not know how. Similarly, regarding the many teachings of Buddhism, through listening and understanding, we can make proper choices. Also, through listening to sutras and treatises, we can prevent many unwholesome actions. Previously, without understanding, without having heard the Dharma or engaged in study and contemplation, one understood nothing. One understood neither the faults of killing nor the merits of doing good deeds. Through listening, and one can require oneself not to do bad things, or at least not harm sentient beings and so forth. Through listening to the Dharma, one eliminates much meaningless distraction. External distractions involve gossiping with others all day and engaging in meaningless activities. Then mentally, one is also constantly in states of agitation, dullness, and so forth, wasting time in meaningless states. All these meaningless activities will be eliminated. Through listening, one first knows the temporary and ultimate relationships of benefit and harm. At the same time, through applying antidotes to afflictions, one can manifest the wisdom of selflessness. Further, one can attain the fruition of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Therefore, we should first understand that listening is extremely important. Nowadays, some people often say that one only needs to practice and doesn't need to listen. This kind of statement might be beneficial for extremely few individuals. We cannot categorically deny this, but for the majority of people, our capacity is gradual in nature. We must practice according to stages. Moreover, for most people, even if you want to practice, listening will not be an obstacle for you at all. What is most frightening is the various non-dharmic activities in the outside world. Non-dharmic activities will create obstacles for our practice, but listening to the teachings of great masters and the scriptures of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas increasingly enhances the faith, compassion, and wisdom in our minds. It is absolutely impossible that listening to the Dharma would sweep away all the virtues in one's mind stream. Such a phenomenon is absolutely impossible. Therefore, I hope that many Dharma friends here should develop the habit of reading Dharma books and the truths found in teachings. At the same time, one should constantly listen and recharge oneself daily. Constantly accumulate the wisdom born from hearing, contemplating, and meditating. This should bring tremendous benefit. Therefore, I want to first briefly emphasize to everyone that the virtues of listening should never be abandoned. We must always treat the importance of listening with seriousness. Now let us formally discuss the sufferings of animals. If we categorize the sufferings of animals, texts like the Treatise on the Great Perfection of Wisdom, the Agama Sutras, and the Sutra of the Right Mindfulness of Dharma contain quite extensive classifications with detailed descriptions. Generally speaking, these so-called animals have quite serious negative karma in their mind streams. The Abhidharma Mahavibhasha states, predominantly ignorant actions of body, speech, and mind, meaning that ignorance predominates in their body, speech, and mind, born there, continuing that birth stream, hence called the animal realm. This means that any animal in the world is particularly ignorant, with much darkness accumulating in their mind stream. The actions of their body, speech, and mind are all unwholesome dharmas, hence they are called animals. Here, in terms of classification, according to the categories in the words of my perfect teacher, there are generally two types: sea-dwelling animals and scattered animals. There's also the Sutra of the Life of Shakyamuni in his 12 years. Some Dharma friends may have read it. I remember that in this text, the general classification and numbers of sentient beings are 6,400 types of fish, 4,500 types of birds, and 2,400 types of beasts. They are divided into such categories. Therefore, we can understand from any perspective. Generally speaking, after our study this time, we must recognize what kinds of sufferings animals actually have. Then it's not enough just to recognize that they have sufferings. We must definitely visualize their sufferings. At the same time, in our future actions, we cannot harm any animals. This is the main purpose of our study. Therefore, in the process of practicing the preliminaries, we must recognize and meditate very deeply. This point is extremely important. Now, we often encounter some Buddhists and non-Buddhists. Non-Buddhists are understandable. They wouldn't have the concept of distinguishing cause and effect in their mind streams. But among Buddhists, some claim to have studied Buddhism for over 10 or 20 years, yet they don't care about animals at all, whether the animal encounters particularly painful circumstances or whether we treat them with compassion in our daily behavior. They have no such concept. We often see such situations. So through this study, it's extremely important to generate in our mind streams the concept that animals and humans are the same. Some time ago, in Luhuo County, the county of my hometown, there was a group of intellectuals, mainly some teachers and Dharma teachers, about 40 or 50 people. We held a 3-day symposium on future education and charitable activities. During the meeting, one day someone asked me, if we continue releasing animals like this, releasing many animals, especially releasing cattle and sheep, making animals more and more numerous, then our living space becomes less and less. Isn't this harmful to social development? I answered him, or rather asked him back. I said, from our position as monastics, no matter what, however many animals there are, we must definitely protect them. We only have the concept of protection, not killing. But as a religious lay practitioner, of course for non-religious lay people it doesn't matter, but as a religious lay practitioner, when there are many animals, should you kill or protect them? At that time he didn't answer. Another graduate student answered for him. She said, especially in Tibet, since ancient times everyone has been religious, but she believed that animals and humans must definitely be treated equally. Anyone who doesn't have this concept shows that this person doesn't understand the principles of cause and effect. Such a society, even if it regresses, doesn't matter. We don't seek development. Later, the whole audience gave warm applause. Everyone felt that some of her viewpoints were quite valuable, including some quite famous Dharma teachers from the academy at that time. Many people felt that we should indeed think this way. So what we're discussing now is not theoretical. The words of my perfect teacher is mainly for meditation with practical meaning. But at the same time, because some of you have heavy conceptual thinking theory and actual meditative content must be combined, otherwise some of our education and concepts from childhood still have certain problems, especially quite a number of you learned in textbooks from childhood that animals are like plants and trees outside. Although they can move, their brains are actually different from humans, or their sensations are different from human feelings. Various educational approaches. Perhaps we have some different concepts in our minds. When seeing a person being killed, we think, how pitiful, how painful, and want to save them with all our might. But when seeing an animal being killed, some people seem indifferent. This situation exists. This is related both to our past life's practice of Mahayana Dharma and perhaps to this life's childhood environment, education, teachers, and relationships with surrounding relatives and friends. So we must now change these concepts, sometimes through forceful means, repeatedly contemplating many aspects of reasoning. Logically, animals' feelings and my feelings are completely the same. If you say that because their brains react slowly, they should be slaughtered. Then, among humans, there are also some who are particularly slow, including in school. Those with good grades in each class might not even be 1/3. Then 2/3 of the children could all be slaughtered. They could all be killed because of their slowness. This is unreasonable. So sometimes through repeated thinking, observation, and analysis, after this, truly from the depths of one's heart, when seeing sentient beings, compassion naturally arises. This is the basic requirement of Mahayana Buddhism. Now, let us begin discussing the first category, sea-dwelling animals. In the boundless ocean, fish, whales, conches, turtles, shrimp, etc. are densely packed like wine dregs. Many Dharma friends, especially those from coastal areas, should understand this clearly. Especially in the ocean, now many submarines that enter the sea allow people to go into the ocean and observe many underwater worlds. One can see that there are countless sentient beings in the ocean. Among them, some large animals like giant serpents and whales can encircle Mount Meru several times. I remember the world's largest blue whale is 30 meters long and weighs 190 tons. It's said to be the largest animal discovered today. Of course, from historical records, many Buddhist sutras describe some animals with particularly large bodies. The Sutra of the Great Conflagration also states, "In the sea there are great fish with bodies 4,000 li long, 8,000 li long, 12,000 li long, 32,000 li long. There are many such descriptions. These descriptions, compared with some animal bodies discovered in today's world, may have some differences. But this is due to different karmic forces of sentient beings in different circumstances. Very large animals are still being discovered in various places today, so some large animals have particularly huge bodies. Small aquatic animals are like specks of dust or needle points. These sea-dwelling animals also follow the law of the strong devouring the weak. Large ones swallow small ones, while small ones directly penetrate into large ones' bodies and devour them. On every huge animal's body, there are groups of small creatures that build nests and feed on them. Basically, anyone who understands marine fish should know this clearly. On every large animal's body, countless small animals are eating it. Some live on islands where there is no sunlight, unable even to see their own limbs when stretching them. Extremely painful. Now, there are also some islands and particularly dark places where for tens of thousands of years they cannot even see the bending and stretching of their own limbs. There are also those constantly dwelling in darkness. Animals are almost all dull-witted and ignorant, completely unable to understand principles of what to adopt and abandon, dwelling constantly in boundless suffering. No animals can be very intelligent, because this is caused by the karma from their past lives as animals. Generally, animals are particularly stupid and dull-witted. This is the general situation and description of animals dwelling in the ocean. Now let's discuss scattered animals. Although scattered animals live in the human realm or celestial realms, they all experience the sufferings of ignorance and being enslaved. Scattered animals all have these sufferings. For example, Naga kings constantly suffer from threats of Garudas and the harm of falling hot sand. Moreover, they are ignorant and stupid, cruel and vicious, with poison filling the sky, etc. Very pitiful. First, let's discuss the sufferings of Naga kings. One is the threat from Garudas, and another is experiencing the suffering of hot sand. In Buddhist sutras, what karmic retribution is this described as? It should be from slandering the Sangha and burning monastics' dwellings and others' houses, as well as setting mountain fires, etc. From these karmic actions, one becomes a Naga king and suffers the pain of hot sand. In sutras like the Buddha's Longagama and the Questions of the Naga King Sutra, various classifications of Naga kings and the sufferings they experience are all discussed. In some ancient Chinese texts as well, such as the Classic of Mountains and Seas, records of the Grand Historian, Huainanzi, etc., the existence of Naga kings and some of their sufferings are also described. Now, some people think that Naga kings are just so-called dinosaurs and legends, not actually existing. Some intellectuals and scholars in both Tibet and China think this way. Actually, I think this view is also unreasonable. Why is it unreasonable? Because Buddhist sutras never said that all people can see them, including when Buddha Shakyamuni was teaching. Sometimes when Naga beings appeared, many disciples couldn't see them either. But extremely few beings with special clairvoyance or special karmic connections could see them. Such phenomena may exist today as well. It seems that in recent years, evidence of the existence of so-called dragons has been discovered in the world. In 2004, some people went to Lhasa. Later, on the airplane, they saw a very large flying dragon in the sea of clouds. At that time, they captured it with a camera. The footage captured was very clear. The scales on its body were just like those on the pillars of Tibetan temples and houses today. Do we have dragons painted on these pillars? This is a lion, not a dragon, above my head, right? I can't see it. So I can't even see a dragon painting, let alone a real dragon. At that time, they had already captured it on film, and the footage was very clear. Later, it was called the Tibet dragon, a very clear image of half of a dragon's body. Generally, in Tibetan folk sayings, dragons are a special kind of animal that can transform in many ways. When they want to manifest, they can dance across mountains and earth quite large. When they don't want to, they can appear under a cow's hoofprint like a small venomous snake. They can make their bodies large or small. There are such accounts. Also, in 2007, in the security footage of Xinjiang Garden Property Management in Chengdu, a flying dragon was also captured. It only appeared briefly but very clearly. Later, Chengdu Television reported on it. But at that time, meteorological experts and some scientific scholars all thought this was some kind of strange creature, very mysterious. They didn't know what it really was, but actually, this image completely matches the image of a dragon. On June 11th, 2007, a fossilized dragon was also discovered in Guizhou. Later, people called it the New China dragon. This dragon reportedly had a very large body. According to research results from experts and archaeologists, this animal should have a history of over 200 million years. It was only unearthed in the 1990s. Its entire, very complete skeleton was all preserved. Moreover, it was a female dragon. The skeletons of two small dragons it was carrying were also perfectly intact. So with this evidence, I think some wise scholars with excessive conceptual thinking who say that in today's world, many animals and phenomena described in Buddhist sutras should all be denied. I think this is not very appropriate, because the scriptures never said that everyone can see them, but now in relatively special circumstances of this era, people can verify this from different angles. We also mentioned this here in passing, so as Naga kings, they also suffer greatly and are very pitiful. Especially we can clearly see among animals in the human realm, wild beasts without owners constantly live in states of extreme terror. Even eating a mouthful of food cannot be done peacefully. They constantly face dangers like devouring each other, being hunted and killed by hunters, being swallowed by fierce beasts, etc. In Tibet, there's a saying, hawks catch sparrows, sparrows eat small insects, big fish eat small fish eat shrimp. You also have such sayings. This fully illustrates that these animals themselves are constantly creating negative karma of mutual killing. They are constantly creating karma, very pitiful. These animals indeed either generate hatred or greed toward each other. They are particularly skilled at creating negative karma. Constantly, they are continuously creating negative karma. Moreover, hunters are also skilled in techniques for harming and killing these animals. Humans also have various methods for creating negative karma. For example, setting traps, casting nets, shooting arrows, etc. can instantly cause them to lose their lives. In a short time, they are made to leave this world, especially now with advanced technology in coastal areas. I've heard of nets as large as sports fields being cast into the ocean. When pulled up, countless animals are caught. For catching birds, they have various instruments and methods, particularly cruel techniques. So I think from the animal's perspective, there is no sense of security. Humans sometimes fear terrorists, fear thieves coming. If doors aren't locked, will there be some dangers, etc.? There are some worries. Actually, humans, relatively speaking, should have security purity from all aspects. If we were reborn as animals, it would truly be extremely pitiful. Some animals are killed because of horns, fur, skin, etc. that grow on their bodies. For example, people collect seashells for pearls, hunt elephants for ivory and bones, hunt tigers, leopards, otters, and foxes for their pelts, hunt musk deer for musk, kill wild yaks, wild horses, etc. for their blood and flesh. I remember in the letter to a friend, some for pearls, some for fur, blood, flesh, bones, and skin are killed. Finding rest in the nature of the mind also teaches, because of flesh, skin, and bones, they suffer being killed, experiencing boundless suffering. So many animals in this world suffer being killed, enduring unimaginable suffering. In Denmark every year there are whale hunting festivals. The methods used are extremely cruel. The flesh from large whales is cut off piece by piece, then they let it go into the ocean and pull it back up. This way, half of the entire ocean turns into a sea of blood. All men, women, elderly, and children must come to watch in person. If each person gets a piece of meat, this is considered a blessing and feels especially auspicious. They have such harmful traditions. Just think about it. If children grow up with such concepts, what kind of thoughts and behaviors will arise in their mind streams? We all know the answer. So some people, when they were householders, including some monastics here present, may have previously, when they were householders and didn't understand cause and effect, killed many sentient beings. This is extremely frightening. As for myself personally, from what I can remember, I have never intentionally killed animals. This might be due to past life connections and the blessings of the three jewels, because I'm particularly afraid of killing. When I see killing, I basically don't dare to look and always hide far away. But I think everyone's karma is different, and many people are probably not like this. You should examine your own hearts and think carefully, not to mention previous lives or even earlier lives, what kind of karma you created then. Even in this very lifetime, you've eaten live fish. Now, there are many particularly meaningless news reports and advertisements claiming that eating live fish is very good for the brain, improves memory greatly, and makes the body very strong. I've also heard that in some places they kill pigs extremely cruelly. They start by beating the pig's body with clubs. Finally, it screams in agony, truly unbearable. Then all the people gather there and cut off the choice meat from its body piece by piece. They claim that all the essence and vital force from its body is concentrated in this piece of meat. If you eat this, you can live to be 100. Many false advertisements. Some ignorant people are immediately attracted by this. Then they do many immoral things. So sometimes when you look at this society now, it really feels like hell has appeared in the human realm. It's truly cruel. These animals' own bodies actually become the cause of their death. They are extremely pitiful and suffer tremendously. As for animals raised by their owners, due to their ignorance and stupidity, even when the butcher holds knives and swords and comes before them, they just watch helplessly, having no idea to escape. We often see some animals in markets and some in slaughterhouses. Cattle, horses, sheep. The butcher is clearly about to slaughter them, but they themselves have no idea. Furthermore, these animals, all without exception, experience being milked by humans, carrying loads, being castrated, having their noses pierced, laboring in the fields, and many other forms of exploitation and suffering. For nomadic herders, this is easily observable. In the process of using them, they often carry loads, and there's castration, nose piercing, and so on. Extremely cruel practices. Including circus shows nowadays, they make tigers jump through rings of fire, monkeys grab burning iron rods, elephants stand on one foot, and dolphins play ball. Many such training performances. Actually, behind the scenes there are extremely cruel methods. Therefore, many countries now feel that such animal performances are immoral, a very brutal kind of behavior. Therefore, countries like Brazil, Singapore, Finland, some individual countries have enacted laws to prohibit this, including Canada and the United States. In some individual states, they don't allow or approve of animals performing in shows. So now when humans lack compassion, they treat animals as playthings, as objects of entertainment. This behavior leads to a loss of human ethics. Cattle, horses, and other livestock already have wounds covering their backs, yet they still must carry loads and be ridden, traveling with difficulty. When they really can't walk anymore, cruel masters beat them with whips or strike these animals violently with stones. They never consider that as animals. They likewise experience hardship, exhaustion, illness, and pain. Some people never think that they have feelings. Just like some people nowadays, as long as they themselves don't suffer pain, they don't think about other animals having any suffering. This is because from childhood we haven't cultivated compassion. Herds of cattle and sheep, from being strong and vigorous to becoming old and feeble, as long as they haven't yet become useless or died, they are endlessly used by their masters. Once they become so old they are no longer presentable, the master either kills them with one blow or sells them to others. No matter what, they cannot escape the fate of being slaughtered. Those that die naturally are almost non-existent, especially in places like Qinghai region now. Basically every herder's livestock, when they become old, are all driven to slaughterhouses. I went there once before. The herders there compared to those in Gazi region are quite different, because here quite a number of people feel that these old yaks have been very kind to our families. Let them die naturally rather than sending them to slaughterhouses. They have this kind of thinking. But in that area, including some young Tibetans nowadays, that they think as long as it's a piece of meat, we can eat it. Besides that, they have no compassion whatsoever. This is truly humanity's particularly lacking moral side. The suffering that animals experience is truly beyond what we ordinary people can imagine. Actually, treating animals the same as humans is very important. From the perspective of worldly humanitarianism or vegetarianism, viewing animals as having life, feelings and emotions, this kind of view is very important. I remember a British scholar from before, though his ancestry wasn't British, a scholar named Singer. In the 1970s, he wrote a book called Animal Liberation. After this book was published, it had a tremendous impact on many countries. I previously read it from beginning to end. Although some of the expressions are Western ways of expression, different from our way of speaking, there's still quite a gap. Sometimes it takes a long time to understand, but the content is excellent. In just over 30 years, it has already been translated into over 20 languages and continuously published in dozens of countries, including 26 English reprints. It describes how humanity's current slaughter and abuse of animals is persistent, extremely excessive, even going too far. Using an analogy, it's like centuries of white people oppressing black people. Later came women's liberation, black liberation, slave liberation, a series of movements continuously emerging in this world. Similarly, humanity should now also see the emergence of such an animal liberation movement. Only this way can many animals obtain liberation. Of course, some individual countries and some people may not have responded yet, but there are also those with virtue and good Buddha nature who feel this book plays a certain role. When convenient, I hope fellow practitioners should also take a look. Reading it is somewhat challenging. This is my personal feeling. But the content is truly excellent. Now, some of our concepts and ideas, I feel from a worldly perspective, should be transformed. If you don't transform, there's a huge distance between humans and animals. Humans can eat animals. Animals, according to some other religions, are food provided for us. Or if you feel that for humans to survive, our happiness is built upon their suffering. Such thinking and actions are very unscientific and unreasonable. But those who can understand this among people today are very few. So, from now on, we should make improvements in some of our behaviors. From Buddhism's practice and realization perspective, without using many theories, we should think that these pitiful sentient beings have all been our parents. When these parents of ours are now suffering, I visualize their suffering upon my own body. Or from now on, I will not harm any sentient beings and will definitely liberate these beings, thinking this over and over again. Some people say, we're supposed to visualize now, practice the words of my perfect teacher. There's nothing to visualize. What should I visualize? Actually, if we have nothing to visualize, then perhaps there's nothing to visualize. But if you really want to contemplate, we have so much we need to practice now. And these practices are particularly important, more important than some profound and mysterious states. If we truly see animals as equal to humans in our mind streams, having such thoughts, then indeed, as a Mahayana practitioner, many realizations can arise in your mind stream. Whenever we witness sentient beings suffering in this way, we should deeply contemplate and put ourselves in their place, imagining if such intense suffering befell ourselves, how could we possibly endure it? Whenever we see animals being killed, we should repeatedly visualize with compassionate hearts. Each of us should not only generate strong compassion for beings born in the animal realm in general, but especially for the animals we ourselves raise. We should have one portion of kindness and one more portion of love. The Brahma's Net Sutra also says, if a Buddha's child constantly arouses great compassion upon seeing cattle, horses, pigs, sheep, and all domestic animals, should think and speak, you are an animal, generate bodhicitta. These are the original words from the Brahma's Net Sutra. So when we see animals suffering, we should think in our hearts, oh, this sentient being is so pitiful, may it generate bodhicitta. And also speak these words aloud, both thinking and speaking. This is something we Mahayana practitioners should remember at all times. In fact, all animals down to insects and tiny sentient beings all equally have feelings of pleasure and pain. Many people don't know this. Actually, all sentient beings, just like humans, have feelings of pleasure and pain. Moreover, these animals without exception have all been our parents. Generating compassion for them is only natural. If they truly are our own parents, then why wouldn't we generate compassion for them? We should. Every time we think of animals, ignorance, and suffering, we naturally recall the teachings from Buddhist sutras. For example, the Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels states, beings in the animal realm are countless and boundless, performing meaningless acts, meritless acts, dharma-less acts, virtueless acts, impure acts. It describes many of the ignorant behaviors and sufferings of animals. We can see that any animal lacks merit, lacks roots of virtue, lacks opportunities to practice good deeds, and remains constantly in a state of ignorance. So we should constantly remember the causes from their past lives, and that if we don't pay attention regularly, we could easily be reborn as animals. I think I mentioned before that Buddhist sutras teach about 5 causes for rebirth as animals. The first is the fault of breaking precepts, stealing, and theft. The second is not repaying borrowed debts. The third cause is killing sentient beings. The fourth cause is not liking to hear the Dharma when hearing Buddhist teachings, having no interest and not wanting to listen. The fifth is obstructing fasting, precepts, and giving. For example, obstructing the 8 one-day precepts and generosity, creating obstacles and adverse conditions. So we must always be careful whether we might become animals in the future. The Buddhist sutras have explained this very clearly. If we don't pay attention, we could very likely be reborn as such. We must understand these principles. If we don't understand, we'll create karma ourselves. People all have this problem. Therefore, we should generate perfect bodhicitta toward these sentient beings. Regarding the above principles, we should practice with complete preparation, main practice, and dedication. When we practice, we must first generate supreme bodhicitta, then in the middle visualize either the general suffering of animals or the specific suffering of individual animals. Finally, make perfect dedication. We must practice this. I sincerely hope fellow practitioners will actually practice based on theoretical understanding. If we practice these preliminaries very solidly and steadily, then many realizations can naturally arise. If we don't even have the thought that animals are equal to humans, then superficially we may be practitioners, but actually we can't accomplish any dharma. From this we can see that no matter which of the 3 lower realms one is born into, since we've already discussed the 3 places, hell, animals, and hungry ghosts, any of these places will inevitably bring suffering and hardship, tremendous pain. Moreover, the quantity of such suffering is innumerable. The intensity is incomparably severe, not comparable to ordinary human suffering, and the duration is extremely long. If you truly believe in cause and effect, you should be able to feel the sufferings of the 3 lower realms described above. Even more tragic is that sentient beings in the 3 lower realms, due to ignorance and lack of Dharma light, cause their actions to still not escape the causes of lower realms. This is the most tragic aspect. Once you're reborn in the 3 lower realms, there's no longer any opportunity to truly create virtue. This is clear to everyone. As humans, some say, my practice is poor, too terrible, too difficult, but actually, no matter what, we can restrain our own evil actions. Not killing, if a person has willpower, this can be achieved during their lifetime. If you believe in Buddhism during your lifetime, even if your practice is poor, reciting 100 Avalokiteshvara mantras daily, this should be no problem. Some people say, I'm too poor at this, too poor. But no matter how poor you are, you can just chant Om Mani Padme Hum, continuously reciting 100 times daily. This should be possible for a practitioner. But as an animal, though it may have lived for tens of thousands of years in samsara, it has no way to recite even one Avalokiteshvara mantra. So whether we have compassion for sentient beings or recognize the difference between humans and beings in lower realms, we should understand this. Once born into the lower realms, it's very difficult to have another chance to rise up. We could say that wanting liberation again is truly difficult beyond difficult. After being reborn in the 3 lower realms, it's indeed extremely difficult. Just as taught in the 400 stanzas on the middle way, in our mind streams, either in this life or other lives, we have certainly accumulated countless karmas for rebirth in lower realms. Do monastics or lay people now have these in their mind streams? Very likely. We probably do have such negative causes in our mind streams. So now we must sincerely strive to confess all the negative karma we've created in the past. Everyone here should really think repeatedly. Humans are still quite frightening. If we haven't killed in this lifetime, there were many past lives, and also in this life, some people may not have purified completely, not yet finished confessing. Think for yourselves, from childhood until now, throughout samsara, what kind of karma have you created? Whether these karmas have been purified or not, you can be clear by asking yourself. We should vow never to commit these acts again in the future. And generate strong compassion for all beings born in the lower realms, while making the aspiration to dedicate all virtue we've accumulated in the 3 times to these beings fallen into lower realms. May they be freed from the lower realms soon. This is something we should dedicate and visualize daily. I don't need to explain much about the literal meaning here. My requirement for this section is that you remember it constantly. From now until you leave the human realm, remember these instructions frequently. Each time you visualize the virtue I have done today, listening to this lesson, reciting Avalokiteshvara mantras, practicing liberation of animals, studying and memorizing, I dedicate all virtue to the pitiful beings in the 3 lower realms. Then recite great dedications like the King of Aspiration prayers or some short dedication verses. Dedicating this virtue to them is truly indispensable for us. While contemplating and generating bodhicitta, I now fortunately encounter Mahayana Buddhism and have the opportunity to practice the path that accomplishes benefit for self and others. I must study the Dharma diligently and practice with effort so that in the future I can guide all beings from lower realms to pure lands. May the Guru and 3 jewels bless me to gain such ability, and I pray to the Guru and Yidam, recite mantras, make aspirations. Finally, dedicate the virtue to all sentient beings. This passage is truly something we should do regularly in our conduct. There's nothing you can't do. Your daily virtue, meditation, I now truly have this opportunity. As I mentioned, many of us here, though some are capable at memorization while others are not, some have afflictions, suffering, and distractions in their practice. But overall, meditating like this for a short time each day is something anyone can do, including people in big cities who are extremely busy, always earning money, 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 ending up chanting money, money, money. Those whose money keeps getting further away, they also have this time. You can earn money while visualizing. So we should really practice in this way, constantly contemplating. This is extremely important. Regarding the above principles, we should practice while encompassing them with the 3 excellences of dedication and so forth. I hope you'll mark this passage well in your books and then repeatedly in your own practice, close your eyes and contemplate well. Each time, dedicate your virtue to these beings and pray that all Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yidams, and protectors bless my mind stream to truly generate compassion for beings in the 3 lower realms and dedicate all my virtue to them. If we practice like this daily, this is what we call a practitioner. If someone thinks being born in the 3 lower realms is indeed suffering by nature, but the 3 higher realms should be happy and blissful. Actually, the 3 higher realms likewise have no happiness to speak of. Some people think the 3 lower realms are indeed very painful, but the 3 higher realms, human realm, God realm, and asuras, should be very happy. Actually, the 3 higher realms also have no happiness. This principle will be explained to everyone in the next class. Thank you.
Sonam dei tamse rogaya tanani de dhamma pase tirgana jirano chupai chupun sonen dravadvasya
Bangarangara Bana Sadarda Bangarangara Bana Sadarda Bangarangara Bana Sadarda